Alright guys, welcome back. The last time we were here, the car was getting the suspension cradle put in the arms, and that's all done. The car was aligned today, and it's back on the ground. So this video is for those of you who want to do the Sullivan intake. This is for a 4-valve, 4-cam motor. I'm going to go through some stuff here today that I think is very helpful for people who want to do this swap, whether it's 2-valve or 4-valve, but this happens to be 4-valve, 4-cam swap. So I'm going to go around this intake manifold so I can show you guys what to expect, what not to expect, what works, what doesn't work. So coming up on it, this is directly from Sullivan, the intake manifold and the rails. I suggest you do the rails from Sullivan. It's a good match. Starting in the front, I had to use a 90 degree on both sides for the fuel fittings. It's dash 8. There's no leaks there. It actually went pretty well. Staying up front with this intake manifold, you lose the bracket for the alternator. So what I did was I custom made 2 brackets here because this alternator is not held in the top anymore. So as you can see, there's 2 custom made bent brackets that hold it in the top. Otherwise, you got the alternator pulley getting yanked down here in the front. There's nothing holding it up top. There's bolt to the bottom, but it's nice for strength. So I custom made 2 brackets. So there's the intake, the rails, everything fit very smooth and nice. This is dash 8, and those are 90s right here. You're very close to the crossover tube, but it still works. So again, these are 90s, and I got like 3 foot of dash 8. So moving around the horn here. They sell a fuel pressure rail kit right here, a sensor kit that went on pretty good. If you don't use that kit, there's no way you're going to be able to put this fuel system on unless you go a return style. This is for a returnless system. So this fuel pressure sensor there, that's their adapter kit. I had to take the harness here. The harness went up here, and the fuel pressure sensor was up front. So I had to strip the wiring harness back and run the harness all the way back here because it's on the opposite side of the fuel rail. So that's done. So that's that side. It fit real nice. Everything was mint. These O-rings don't leak on there for the crossover tube, which is good. I'll get to this in a second. I'm using Edelbrock's elbow. So you see the part number, 3849, I believe it is. Yep. It fits a 90 throttle body. That throttle body is for an 86 to 93. You can't use a throttle body for my year 9904. So again, that's an Accufab 90mm throttle body. The TPS sensor is for an 86 to 93. I had to wire it in. You have to get some diagrams and figure out which wires that come off the harness from the factory. You have to splice in and find the signal reference, the voltage signal, and like the return. So those are 3 wires you have to figure out. You can message me if you want. I can tell you which ones go where. But the TPS sensors for 8693, throttle body 8693. This elbow was just in a rock. I believe it's 3849. So this whole side, same scenario. If you're running a fuel pressure gauge, the port is underneath here. So that's where it goes. There's a couple other block-offs under the fuel rail. Don't forget to put those block-offs in. You have a massive fuel leak. Again, these rails are just awesome. They fit perfect. Sullivan also gives you an adapter piece here. You also can purchase. It mates the factory fuel line to the fuel rail. This is a 90. This piece is very important. So again, this is Sullivan. I use like Russell, I think, or Aeroquip. Rails are Sullivan. Injector is perfect. It cleans up all the harnesses, which is nice. Now, throttle cable. You got to use an 86 to 93 throttle cable. You have to really modify the bracket here. This bracket was cut and modified, bent, shaped, but the bracket comes with the elbow, so you're good there. The cable, like I said, is for 86 to 93 because it doesn't fit. Your factory cable doesn't mate on this section for the throttle body. So all this whole setup here is 86 to 93. So this bracket was kind of modified, very, it hit here. So we had to cut it, as you can see in there, and bend it. So, it went well, but again, nothing bolted up. So the cable goes through the firewall. We had to cut, not cut, I'm sorry. See those 2 holes? Look at the hole on the right. We had to match up the old cable and match up the 2 holes and drill a new hole on that right-hand side hole for it to go in the firewall. It bolted up nice, and the cable snapped right into the back of the accelerator pedal, so we're good there. So again, throttle cable 8693. Got to kind of modify that. Got to modify the hole here so it matches up with the holes in the firewall. Everything else is kind of 86 to 93. The vacuum lines are a bit of an issue because you can't run most of your emission stuff, so I took everything out. I used from Tuner Toys the vacuum tree. This is boost gauge right there. This goes to the fuel pressure sensor for vacuum. This there goes to my blow-off valve or bypass valve, if you will. A couple extra ports. One's plugged. I'm not sure if I'm using it or not. And this here, this line here, goes under the manifold. Okay, there's a vacuum source. There's 2 ports under this manifold that you have to tee into. So this line there is the vacuum source for the T. The second vacuum line comes out and goes to my remote idle air control motor. You can't run an IAC motor on the throttle body, it's going to hit. So you have to run a vacuum line out from under the intake manifold, which I did, which is, I can maybe try to get it, you can't really see it, right here, and that goes under the intake manifold. So there's 2 vacuum sources under the manifold. This is a remote idle air control motor right here. It's open end, which sucks in the air, and the second end, finds its vacuum source into the intake manifold. This is from MMR. This open breather is from Summit. You can get it anywhere. So there's a block-off plate under the throttle body. Right there. That's also MMR. Got to block that off with the IAC motor. It's not going to work. Where you have to run a remote IAC motor. So you got remote idle air control motor. You have a remote vacuum blocked because you got to remove all your emission stuff. This intake manifold has nothing emissions on it. Nothing can go anywhere. Got to take it all off, guys. Throttle body 86 to 93. Cable 86 to 93. TPS sensor 86 to 93. Make sure you get Sullivan's fuel pressure sensor kit, Sullivan's connector for the back of the fuel rail, because the fuel source comes in, goes up the front, loops, and it gets its pressure in the back. Don't do it any other way, you're gonna fuck yourself up. Alternator, make brackets for this so you can take the stress off that front pulley. And throttle cable 8693. You got to modify this bracket. Don't worry about it. It comes with the elbow, and you got to cut. I'm sorry, I keep on saying cut. You have to drill a second hole in there so it matches up with the factory holes, or else you're going to be putting holes in your firewall. The shit's never going to work. So you got to have a good tuner that's going to shut this your emission stuff off. But it's an amazing intake. Forced induction is probably going to add 75, possibly to 100 horse to this motor. It's an amazing, awesome setup. And definitely have to retune, because right off idle, the car just pins my air-fuel ratio is pinned to 20.0. So I'm getting it tuned in a week from now. So, and this tube is not going to look like this. This tube was custom made by myself and my buddies, and it's just a regular 18-inch tube that's bent. That's it's a 4-inch throttle body to a 3.5-inch tube. It's obviously 3.5 inches. And your breathers are all open. Okay, those are all open push-in style K&Ns. You don't want to run a vacuum line. I don't want to push any unwanted, moistened air into the throttle body. It's way too clean in here. So it cleans up really nice. It looks awesome. But there's some stuff on here. Like all my videos, I like to show people what to do, what not to do, and what to expect. It's good stuff. So if you want that wiring diagram on where to pin into, because you got the 3 wires from the TPS sensor and the 3 wires from the factory harness, they're all different colors. I have those diagrams. I can send them to you. So that's it. That's the Sullivan intake with the Accufab throttle body and some MMR stuff on there. And that accelerator cable came from, I believe, American Muscle. It was $50, but you ain't gonna do it without it. So you gotta figure it out. I'm not sure where the Tuner Toys was. Here's their website if you want to get that. It's super important to get this vacuum tree. All right, that's my video. Next week I'm dynoing, and hopefully she stays together. Take care, guys. Bye.